Welcome to 2.01, the musical staff. Today, we are going to go through and basically learn what all these different lines and spaces and how to read them means. So, for ease, I color-coded things and put some letters in the notes, but just know that those won't always be there, right? So your job is to kind of memorize a couple of things for me and understand the process, so that way you can go through and figure out what any note is. Trust me, I've been where you've been, and this will make your life so much easier. I wish I had somebody to tell me the same. So let's start with the lines, right? Or actually, better yet, the staff. So the staff is these 5 lines that run left and right, all kind of bunched together with this clef in the middle and the 4 spaces in between said lines, right? That's what the musical staff is, and what makes this different than the tablature that we learned in 1.05 was tablature had 6 lines, and each line represented a string. This has 5 lines, and the lines and spaces represent pitches. So as it goes higher, it starts to sound higher, and as it goes lower, it starts to sound lower, right? Catch my drift? So these lines do not tell us any particular note or any particular string per se. Like, what I mean by that is it's not going to be like, oh, because this is the lowest line, this is on the low E string. Absolutely not. Matter of fact, this line is the E that we learned on the D string, but that's another thing for a later time. So what we're going to learn is a couple of extra phrases. If you remember your Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie, that was to help us learn the names of the strings. We're going to learn the names of the lines and the names of the spaces, so that way you're able to look at any one of these notes without red and blue in it and, be able to tell me what letter it is, because that's important. So, the lines spell out, or at least my favorite phrase, my go-to, is every good bear deserves fish. Every good bear deserves fish. Now, if you didn't have these white letters here in the middle of each note, then you would probably have very little clue as to what I'm saying, right? But each one of these notes, right, is technically named after the first letter of each one of those words. So every, E, good, G, bear, B, D, deserves, and F, fish, right? So every good bear deserves fish. E, G, B, D, F. Now, you might have heard a different phrase, and if so, you probably already thought this. You're like, wow, this sounds familiar. I kind of recognize this. Whenever I was in school, I learned it as every good boy deserves fudge. That was just the one that I heard. I've had other students come up with some pretty funny ones over the years too, like every gummy bear deserves friendship. It's all about just whatever you will remember. That's literally all that matters. It doesn't have to be the same one as me, just so long as you can remember that it is supposed to be E, G, B, D, F. Any other order of those letters is wrong. E, G, B, D, F. The spaces happen whenever you are between 2 lines. So you can kind of see each one of these notes has the black line going through it. That means that that note is on a line. If we have a note that is in a space, that means that it has a line on top of it and below it, but it's in that gap. And since there's 5 lines, that means that there's 4 spaces in between them. And the space one's pretty easy compared to the lines one. If you can remember the phrase, spaces spell face, you'll know. Because they rhyme, that's kind of an easy way, but the spaces will always spell face from bottom to top. And that's another thing, is we always go from the lowest line to the highest line on the staff. It's always going bottom to top, always going up. So spaces spell face. F-A-C-E is always going to be our spaces. So again, lines is every good bear deserves fish, E-G-B-D-F. These spaces are F-A-C-E. Because why? Because spaces spell out face. Now, what I did for our next line here is I just put all of the notes on the staff in a row, because really what happens is if we go, up like in a scale, like what we did for our natural scale, we're going one letter at a time, and it's going to alternate between a note on a line and a note on a space, right? This is just going up a scale almost. It's like it's walking up, stairs or something like that, right? So we have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. We're just going in the order of the alphabet, musical alphabet, rather. So, this is kind of just like combining the line and space notes that we've learned now. So, the other things that I included, just because I figured you'd be curious, was I included the notes below the staff. I included the notes above the staff, meaning that these notes still exist, right? Like if I had my guitar and I was trying to find wherever low E was, hint, it's this guy. This one is considered below the staff because the lines of the staff only go to here. So if we have notes lower than that, we kind of have to create like fake lines called ledger lines that will take us below the staff. There's also ledger lines that can go above the staff, but as you guessed it, that tends to be for the higher notes on the guitar, right? And they still follow the alphabet, and they still technically have like lines and spaces. I guess not really as much spaces, because you don't put a line on top of something like that. Like D is just sitting on top of a line instead of it being, between two lines. But, these are notes above, those are notes below, and if you combine them, you end up with all of the notes on the guitar. So this is, our natural scale actually starts here and ends here at this G, and then there's several other notes past that. And, in case you are looking forward to me playing that, I'll do it for you. So these are all of the notes, the natural notes, on the guitar. And now I'm in the red and blues. And now I'm back to above the staff, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And some guitars can actually go higher than that, and if you tune down, you can go lower than that, but this is just generally accepted as the musical range of the guitar. These are all the notes that it can play. So, believe it or not, by the end of this year, you'll be, technically you've already played all of these notes because of the natural scale, but you'll be able to read all the way from low E to this G at the very least. You'll probably get to learn some more of that, and you've played some other notes already in your exercises, but those are all the notes that you're going to get to learn. So, without further ado, go ahead and take that 2.01 quiz. Best of luck to you, and I will see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.